Kevin Clark was the first treasurer when I went there.
Okay.
He was excellent. I mean, the association was very lucky that they had these people. They were all just so very enthusiastic, conscientious, supportive of the industry at the expense of their own businesses a lot of the time, because they spent so much time for the benefit of other members. And at one stage we had Paul Golding and Bruce Astbury, who used to call me Auntie Joan.
I'd probably been on the council at that stage for maybe 15 years. And it came about that initially I found myself as treasurer, and then I was lucky enough to be vice president to Eric Heyman for a little while, I think, then Kevin O'Brien, and then Tom. Tom was very keen to get me to stand, which I did, and I went through the process and was elected as president. So I think I'd probably served my apprenticeship at that stage under what I'd say were three magnificent people of our industry.
And I think beyond my time then, because I retired in 2000, we saw Kevin together with Peter Wright as his CEO. We're moving towards Kevin's primary role at that stage was then to move from Jeff's Shed to Caufield.
I want to see the great outdoors.
And visit all my mates. Go caravan camping!
And on four-wheel drive escapes. I want to see the latest.
And all the places you can go.
That's why we're all heading to Australia's greatest outdoor show.
The Caravan Camping and Touring Super Show is so big, we had to move it to the Caufield Racecourse. So if you're into the great outdoors, don't miss it, April 23 to 29.
There were a couple of reasons we went to Caufield. Firstly, at that stage, the industry was going through significant growth, and we were struggling to fit into the Jeff's Shed by the end of it.
We had to move out of Jeff's Shed, two things. One, there wasn't enough room, and secondly, the overhead costs were too high. Caufield was a great venue.
What the public have really enjoyed about Caufield is the open air part, the inside part, the outside part, the tourism part that's come into our show, the destinations, and what people can actually do with their caravans, where they can go, how they can use them and how affordable they are to use.
At the end of the day, that was a fairly big move, as anyone would appreciate, going from a totally indoor stadium to a virtually indoor-outdoor stadium.
The transition from Jeff's Shed to Caufield was a huge change for the organisation, a very challenging role.
The first year we were there, we did actually have it was almost a washout one day. It just rained and rained. It did cause a few problems because people were then traipsing in and out of caravans with muddy feet and all that sort of thing. I'm sure the dealers will never forget it.
I can remember one Anzac Day that we had the show open and the heavens just opened up, and we had about 40 mils of rain in about 20 minutes, and some of the sites got flooded, and we copped a hailstorm another year.
The day before we opened, we had this massive hailstorm that came through, high winds, and things went everywhere. And I think we had to spend something like $30,000 on a clean-up bill in 24 hours over in the evening and through the morning before we opened, as a monumental task.
We had over $100,000 worth of damage to our vans alone from hail damage.
So I presented its issues, but it was a challenge that I think really paid off in the end. It gave the association the opportunity to pocket some money in the bank, which was desperately needed.
Yeah, I think there was a fair amount of criticism initially of the show, and that was probably around parking, etc. But the dealers, I think, were happy. They always wanted more room to display their products.
We had to put down boarding because when it rained it got a bit muddy. But that's all part of the caravan industry. We are an outdoorsy thing, so we have to be mindful of rain and wind and things like that. So to have it outside like we do now is more part and parcel of what we are.
I always had a craving to have a TV show about caravanning. And in fact, in 1989, I wrote a letter to Ron Chapman and got his support, and we've talked about it with other people that have come and gone. As you can appreciate, a lot of the CEOs have come and gone in between times. The reason we got the show up was because of Kevin Clark and Peter Wright.
The challenge was to convince the council that it was the right way to go, and at that particular time we didn't have any assurances from anyone, so we were going to have to spend some money to do some pilots.
Kevin played a very significant role because he had to convince the council at the time to put up the funds for the initial shows.
And without Kevin doing that, we would never have got up on air. We wouldn't have got the support of the association, and that was invaluable and has been.
Once the funding was approved from the association, it was a matter of us joining forces, I guess, with Cole and Warren to knock on the doors of Channel 10 to try and get a program up and running. And I guess that was the interesting part. And of course they took the bait and away we went. And it was a great start.
I had a meeting with the Manson brothers and Mike Sinclair and Warren Parrow at ACP and Roz was the editor, and with Paul Cronin we were able to start Discover Downunder, a TV show. First year we only did 8 episodes on Channel 10, and then we did a couple more, and then all of a sudden we were besmitten by Channel 9 to come across to Channel 9, so we went across to Channel 9. It's just been history. We're now called What's Up Downunder. We started as Discover Downunder.
I remember my first meeting in North Melbourne in the old premises there, and sitting up in that cramped little meeting room upstairs. And in those days, Peter Wright was the CEO, as we know it today, and it was quite good, a good mix of people.
When you go to the council, you are one of a team, and although I was president and vice president, I felt very much part of a group of 12 people that all were sacrificing their time for the betterment of the industry.
I served under 3 presidents. Kevin obviously was the first, Tony Bryant as well, did an exceptional job through his period, and that was no easy feat at all. And then Peter May, in that period when I actually decided to retire at that early stages of his presidency as well. So
Peter Wright and I were heading across from the North Melbourne office to the Regis Hotel, and he said, by the way, I'm resigning as the executive officer. And he said, and by the way, Marilise is pregnant and is leaving us. She was our office admin girl. I turned around and went, gee, Righty, have you got any good news for me?
I got a phone call from Tony 20 to 4 one afternoon to say that nominations to go on the council are about closing. It looks like there's a vacancy. Would you be interested in putting your hand up? And I said, OK, we'll have a go. Not expecting to get on, and that's how I got on. I blame Tony Bryant for it all.
I just thought to myself, well, I could be president and act for all the guys that never got a say, like, you know, the repairers and all the little guys that were members but never really had a big voice. So, in 2005 I ran. Nobody ran against me, which was good. And for 5 years I was president. Peter Wright, who was the CEO, he helped me. Actually did more for me than a lot of other people did, so I'm sort of a bit beholden to him.
I certainly had a fantastic time through the period. And I must say, it's the members that really made it for me. I found the members to be very supportive once, I guess they got to know me, but also what the association was all about. And I just hope it continues on that way, and I wish everybody the best and everyone else as well involved with the industry.